I really honestly don't even think the introduction I have is big enough for you guys. I think you guys are just two incredible mentors in this industry. And I wanted to kind of start the call with you guys talking about your journey and how the Hair Lab Detroit has kind of come to pass, how you guys, you know, got started. I know we have a NAHA Texture Winner and a NAHA Men's Finalist on with us today. Like, you know, Rodrick and Lauren, I just can't say enough. So welcome. Kind of tell us a little bit more about yourselves. I know that Hair Lab Detroit is huge now. You got lots of things going on in the works. So welcome.
Thank you. We're excited to be here. You know, you guys are some of our favorite people, so we'll always happy to do things with you guys.
Absolutely.
You know, Hair Lab Detroit started back in I think we started thinking about it probably in 2012, 2013, when the two of us met. And initially it was an education platform where we could travel and teach other already licensed people, already licensed stylists and barbers, you know, the things that we've learned in the industry over the years. Because a lot of it is, we believe that to be successful in this industry, it's like one part talent, one part, you know, personality, one part drive, one part commitment to the industry. So it's a whole bunch of things that go into truly being successful in this industry. And I think a lot of times people think of it as a one-dimensional, you know, experience, and it never can be if it's going to be true success. So you know, that was sort of the basis for our dream, and our thought was like, we love sharing our insights with other stylists and barbers in the industry, so let's do that. And then we quickly realized that that's probably not enough to support our family on. So
we needed to make some money.
Yeah, it turns out it's a necessary evil.
Yeah.
So we opened the bricks and mortar salon downtown Detroit. So, you know, we took a risk. It was an up and coming area, but there were still very few salons down there. So for us to sort of throw our hat in the ring was scary. It was overwhelming at times. It was intense. And if anyone that's done business in the city of Detroit, it's like the wild, wild west. So you're kind of on your own trying to figure out how to do it. So we started there and we loved it there. We loved being down there. We loved our clientele. We loved all of that. And within just a couple short years, our lease was up and it was time to move. So we were in the process of trying to move our salon. And, you know, Rodrick's been in the school business for
since Moby Dick was a minnow, and I've been in the school. I've been in the school business for a long time, and you know, initially when we were thinking about Hair Lab, of course, it was an educational platform, but now, you know, there was an opportunity for us to really do a bricks and mortar school. So,
and that's kind of a funny story.
Yeah.
I think that we should share the way it came about, because we didn't go into this, you know, looking for a building and thinking like, let's do a school. I was like, we were not doing a school ever. You can have a seat, sir, and we're going to continue to do this.
I kept getting vetoed. My idea just kept getting axed all the time.
So we were struggling finding a spot to move our salon. I mean, it was down to the wire, getting scary. You know, we were dealing with like astronomical price increases in the city of Detroit in the 5 short years that we were down there, to the point that we just couldn't even wrap our brains around, you know, what that looked like for our business. So we were having a chat with a man named Larry Curtis and a man you guys know well, Gino Stampora. And we were in LA and we were just whining to them, as you do your friends when you get together, and what are we going to do, and woe is me. And we, in our search for a building for the salon, had come across a building that was already built out to be a school. And we were just telling them about that, like, yeah, if we were insane, this is what we would be doing. But since we're not, you know, we're just going to show you the pictures so you can look at it and go, wow, that's cool. And the two of them sort of like looked at each other with this like wink, wink, nod, nod. And Larry decided to throw his hat in the ring and open a 3rd location in Michigan. So he's already got 2 locations in Utah. And so this would be his 3rd location. But Taylor Andrews doesn't have a brand here. Taylor Andrews isn't necessarily known in Michigan, but Hair Lab is. So, you know, he opened the school. We worked out a deal where he uses our branding and our image and our bodies and our personality and
our
our
minds and our time and our kids.
So, you know, while it's not a partnership, we actually work for him. You know, we set it up in a way that he's able to capitalize on everything that we've built, and we don't lose that. You know, that was really important to us, to not lose what we had already worked so hard to build. And working for someone else, we were, you know, it's always scary when you go from working for yourself to working for someone else that you're going to lose that identity. But this was a way that we all got to maintain, you know, what we wanted to maintain. So he got to open a third location. We got to maintain our branding. My husband gets to be in a school again. So he's super happy. And I'm just, you know, fumbling my way through it all. So
she's doing a good job. Don't let her say that. She's actually doing a really, really good job.
Well, I never went to school. I did an apprenticeship. So not only have I never worked in a school or gone to school, here I am, you know, helping run a school. So and the students always say like, it's so different than any other school I've been to. And I keep thinking, well, I'm sure, like, I'm totally sure that it is. Like, I'm sure that, you know, the way that my brain processes things is probably, you know, different. So, so that's always fun to hear because, you know, I every day I wake up going like, I'm not sure. So that's our short form of our journey. And I'm sure Rodrick has something to add because I just kept talking and talking and talking. Had a lot of sleep last night, so I'm ready to go. So,
well, normally I'm the talkative one, you know, and in a lot of interviews and podcasts that we normally do, I kind of get a slap on the wrist sometimes because I do talk too much. I am the son of a preacher, and you know, sometimes those things become innate to me. So I just blab and motivate and talk. And Sean's we've had an online class for you guys, the students, before. He knows how long I can talk. So, but it's fine. But on a serious note, it's honestly, we couldn't have asked for better mentors like Gino Stampora, like Larry Curtis, like Tina Black, like Sean. And not only that though, but you know, I think that sometimes, you know, as beauty professionals, we really don't understand sacrifice versus successes, right? So sometimes you have to sacrifice a lot more than you're probably even willing to do at that time to gain this ultimate success. And you know, we're not where we want to be as an organization and as school directors, but we aren't where we used to be, you know, which is we're looking, you know, well over a year and a half now that the Hair Lab's been in existence, and just really kind of, you know, going day by day and loving it every single day.
Yeah. And you're right. I never get to hear from Lauren, and Lauren, you are amazing. I'm glad we included both of you together. And I just think it's so dynamic when we have two spouses together to kind of share their stories. I think it's amazing. My husband's the same. Rodrick, he's the quiet one between the two of us. But man, when I let him talk, John knows like he's got a lot to share.
Well, you know, and I'm so glad that you say that. A lot of times, you know, especially in couples in our industry, you know, it's always the man, you know, it's the guy, and then the wife normally plays the background. But honestly, if I could have a moment of vulnerability, she's actually the brainchild behind all of these things. So for couples out there that are working together, you know, it takes a certain level of trust. It takes a certain level of communication, and especially the communication part. I think that's where we really kind of excel. Is that, you know, we dated long distance for years before we actually lived in the same place. So not only sharing, you know, our passion for the beauty and barber industry, our passion for entrepreneurship, but also, you know, we also have a business together and we raise our family together. So I think that there's a lot of moving pieces that when people see us out, they're like, oh my God, it's Rodrick, it's Lauren, and it's NAHA, and it's this, that, and the third. We're still, you know, I like to use the term, I'm not Hollywood, I'm neighborhood. Right? Because a lot of times when people see you in the magazines and they see you on shoots or whatever the case may be, that's kind of what they think. But really, are we dealing with grades and online school clothes? Our daughter wants to get piercings and tattoos. It's kind of weird, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, so we're still juggling, you know, our home life, our business, as well as, you know, continue to make our mark on the industry and letting people know how important education is in our industry. It's not an option, it is a must. But also, from a school aspect now, which we've been working behind the chair for so long, now it's really about how do we impact the school business? How do we inspire educators and do train the trainers and make sure that, the best possible future professional is coming out of our program, and how we can actually also help other schools to reach those goals and those benchmarks that we all need as well. So,
well, and anyone that knows anything about barbering in Michigan is that there's no instructors. It's not, there just are no barber instructors in the state of Michigan. So from having to find, the two that are under 95 that could work for us, and then building our team from there, that's always been an interesting part of it.
That's very true. Yes, I am with you 100%. I'm so glad that we can kind of talk about this, because we're all on the same level. And I love what you were saying, Lauren, it's not just about talent, right? And I think our schools have to really focus a lot on the talent, because we're trying to get them ready, right? To even just be comfortable with hair, because you all know as much as I do, 1,500 hours is not enough technically to get them ready. And last year was even worse, because we're working just on mannequins. We couldn't even work on people. And so we're hiring our future professionals, even in our salons, and realizing we're not going to get them ready on the floor in 2 weeks like we used to. It's going to be a lot longer than that. So let's talk about about the schools, because I think there's a bridge like in between the two, between schools and salons, and how to prepare them. How can we even get better at the school level to get them prepared for the salon world? And we all know, about 10% are going to be prepared early. The rest is going to take a lot longer, right? And the salons have to have some kind of education system to get their team members ready to work on their guests, right? So let's kind of talk about that gap that exists and the bridge that needs to happen.
So I have a lot of really strong opinions about this. Being a newbie to the school industry, I come in with this like fresh perspective of like, oh, okay, now I get it. So before, we traveled the country all the time and taught at schools. Like, schools were a huge part of our business in traveling and teaching. And a lot of times we would hear the same things from students, like, oh, my school doesn't teach me anything, and oh, I'm not ready. And I'm in the schools and I'm watching these students sitting at their stations on their phones, not engaging with anyone, not doing the work, not doing their part to get to where they need to be. And it was quickly that I realized the whole purpose of schools in our industry is they are set up to strictly get you to pass state board. Now, it takes 10,000 hours to master something, and that's a drop in the bucket. I mean, the 1,500 hours is a drop in that 10,000 hour to mastery bucket. So I think one of the most important things as schools that we can do is to teach our students the commitment, the drive, and the ethics that it's going to take to get them to where they need to be. So I can't make you a hair master in 1,500 hours, but I can train your mind to understand what it's going to take to get you there. So the commitment, the sitting in front of your TV every night with a mannequin head between your legs while you practice braiding just to get your dexterity down. It's volunteering to assist at a shop that you want to gain some of their knowledge, even while you're in school. And it's all those little things, the soft skills, how to talk to a stranger, how to make a client feel like they're your best friend, how to get them engaged in your life and in your career so that they stay committed to you. So there's so much beyond doing a good haircut. Because I think if you teach them here, then the rest of it will follow, because they will understand that it's their responsibility when they go home to continue practicing. They're not here long enough for us to do that. And to put that kind of pressure on us as school directors and school owners is unfair, because you're dealing with, a group of people that are either going to do the work or they're not going to do the work. But that doesn't make you, Tina, less of a school owner because you've got students in there that just aren't putting in the work. So I think as school owners and directors, it's our responsibility to build up their confidence. That's a big thing that we see is their personal confidence, not just their professional confidence. So working with our students to make sure that they know the steps to take to be successful, whether they know how to cut hair yet or not, right? Because it's more than that. So, and I think that's what people buy into. You can be not such a great hairstylist, but if your clients love you, they will work with you until you get it right. They will stay with you and be committed to you. And, you know, you guys can work through that together. So I think there's a lot we can do as school owners that goes beyond, you know, just the traditional curriculum.
Well, I think it's something that's really, really needed as well. Just in my experience and being in the school business for so long, I was actually able to see different generational shifts in students, in how students interact with clients, and the I guess the level of confidence that a lot of students either lack or have coming into programs like this. Unfortunately, you know, barber and beauty schools for a lot of people are kind of like last chance university, right? It's like, oh, well, I've been a plumber and I've been at this and I've been at that, and you know, this seems to be really cool, so let me get into this. But I think like the biggest misconception is they don't understand how much work actually goes into becoming a licensed professional in the personal appearance industry. You know, we get a lot of students that want to come into our program like, oh, this is so cool, and you know, I want to work with my hands. And yeah, while all that's fine, there's theory and there's book work, and there's, you know, you have to study and you have to, you know, put in some extra hours in order to really achieve that goal. And I think that, you know, as instructors in our schools, I think that there's a real big disconnect, like Tina was saying earlier, from being in the shop environment to actually, you know, the school environment, which, you know, Lauren has been in the salon business for just as long as I've been in the school business. So I think that coming together and with her experience in managing and owning salons and my experience in managing and owning schools, we kind of get that commonality and see where that gap is so that we can now put those things into place, like Lauren was talking about, soft skills. We really, really kind of have to push that envelope as far as soft skills. She was talking about confidence. I've never seen, you know, there's just tons and tons of students who lack confidence. And I don't think that comes from the school. I think that things kind of start at home. But, you know, one of the good things that we do here with our students and what we've been doing on the road as well is we teach a lot of mental toughness. I think that it's never a problem. It's always how you deal with that problem. And I think a lot of our younger students especially don't understand how to deal with certain challenges or issues that may come up, whether it be dealing with a guest and or maybe just dealing with, you know, we watch a video for our new talent students called First World Problems, right? And by watching that video, we get them to realize that, you know, oh my gosh, you know, my cup doesn't have, you know, I didn't have the right Starbucks order or something, and they implode, right? So we teach them that, you know, okay, maybe it's not the right order, but you know, that shouldn't continue to blow up your day. So outside of, you know, kind of working with that, I think the second important thing, we were talking about the students and their challenge, but I think the second thing, which is probably should be the first, is the instructors, right? Because of the fact that there's a lack of instructors, especially here in the state of Michigan, we got to become very, very creative in the way that we give instruction and how we actually tailor it to the 4 to 7 different learning styles, depending on who you deal with or talk to, as it comes to students now, right? So one of the biggest challenges, especially with me being a seasoned educator, is like Lauren was talking about, that 10,000 hours. I cannot imagine, well, I've dealt with it, but for someone who's not as seasoned as I am as an instructor coming into the industry, that angst to mash 10,000 hours of what you know to be true to get this student to the next level in their career into a 1,500 or 1,800 hour program. Honestly, I have sleepless nights sometimes because I see so much potential in certain students and they're just not getting it. They just don't, I don't know if it's home, and unfortunately, sometimes I'm that teacher. I care so much about my students and my staff and the betterment of our industry, to where it kind of keeps me up at night. So
and he won't let me do what I want to do from my Catholic school upbringing and take a ruler to the knuckles. He draws the line, and that's why they keep me in that office. They don't allow me out here on the floor, Tina.
Well, you know, sometimes I think just a good verbal commitment to someone is better a lawsuit. Rat-a-tat-tat, yeah, we.
That's how I train him at home though, when we're doing hair at home.
Yeah.
He gets really upset with me, so.
Fame, that'll be the great headline, right? You know, next level leadership to now doing a 2 to 4 in the Michigan prisons. That's I think that's the kind of press that we're looking for right now. But honestly, I think that, you know, it starts at the leadership level. It starts with our owners and our directors, and then trickles down to our instructors, so that our students can have the best overall education that they can get. And, you know, just that level of authenticity that I think a lot of instructors, you know, because they're an instructor, that they feel like they can't make any mistakes, and the students should do what I tell you to do, and not as you see me do. That's BS now in 2021. We have to be the change that we want to see in our industry. But not only that, though, we have so many role players as instructors that we lack role models. So I hope that doesn't get me in any trouble, but, you know,
It usually does.
sometimes.
Good. I love
Sorry.
that. Be honest. Yeah, that's huge. What is that exactly? What does that mean to you guys when you say that?
To me, I think that there's a certain level of honesty that should go into sometimes when you're communicating with a student. You know, we've been in this industry long enough. We know we can tell the students that are going to be amazing and they're going to have this wonderful career. And we also see those students who, you know, we just know that at some point their grandma was looking at them and they were saying, oh, look at them, they're so precious, right? So, you know, we just have to do a better job of really kind of communicating our students' strengths as well as their weaknesses, but not do it in a condescending way, but in a form where they'll really get to understand why we do what we do, and the emotion and the level of intimacy that kind of goes into really being an amazing, you know, professional barber or stylist.
Yeah, that's so good. I love it. We're really working hard on trying to build a stronger feedback culture in our schools, you know, at the same that we do at the salon level, because most of the time in our salons, a lot of these graduates haven't heard what we've told them. They're like, you're the first person who's ever told me. My mom's never said it. Of course, my grandma never did. I'm a grandma, so I get it. My grandkids are perfect and always will be. But it's so true of giving that feedback and how to get it. And it's interesting because I'll have students come to me, Rodrick and Lauren, and say, hey, can you coach me? And the first thing I say is, I want you to go to every one of those instructors and I want you to ask them, how am I doing? How could I do better? I can count on maybe one hand out of the hundreds of students that I've coached to do this that have done it, and very few will follow through because they do not want to hear, you know, the bad, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and they won't follow through with it, and they're just like, I'll forget it, you know, I'll just continue on my way, you know, and I'm not gonna, you know. But so it's really working hard. So how would you recommend, you know, in the salon level and the school level, for a school to really build that strong feedback type of culture?
I think it starts, you know, it starts both ways, right? So I think it's important for us to offer the feedback on a regular basis, right? And I do that. I'm the academy director, so I'm not out teaching on the floor. So a lot of times I'm dealing with like the personal issues, or, you know, and all of that affects what you do in this building. And so I, a lot of times, ask them how they would handle a situation, or how, you know, they want advice, but I'm like, okay, but what do you think you should do? Like, let me hear what you think you should do, and then let's address it. Or we see students wanting to take leaves because, you know, life just got hard. And I think like, okay, well, that's great. You can take a leave because your life got really hard, but what is it going to change? And also, what are you going to do when you're in the workforce and life gets hard and you can't take a leave, right? So, you know, making them sort of critically think about these decisions. And my mom always used to say, there's never a problem without a solution, right? So there will never be a problem without a solution. So before we shut down, before we panic, before we give up, you know, we have to find that solution. It may not be an ideal solution. It may not be the one you want, but life doesn't really work that way. Life happens the way it's supposed to happen. So, you know, it may not be the solution that's ideal for you in that moment, but it could take you somewhere that you never would have gotten without this issue going on. So I think for my end of things, I really try to teach them mental toughness, and that you can't shut down every time things don't go your way. That's not how life works. And if you're planning on going into a service related industry, it stops being about you when you walk in the door. So how are we going to combat your me mentality with somebody that's also actively looking and training to go into the service industry? Those things don't go together. And I think one of the reasons personally that I've been so successful is that I never called off work. I was never late. In 10 years, I didn't miss one day of work. I was not 1 minute late, and everyone's like, oh, well, you're perfect and you didn't hit traffic. No, I made the decision that I was going to get up early enough that there was traffic, I would still make it, and so it's a lot more than just, making the commitment. It's making better decisions and realizing that you are in control of your life and you're in control of your destiny. And the way you react to what life throws at you is going to be the biggest determining factor in how successful you are. So the only person that can take charge of that is you. And I make sure that the students know that, I'm sorry that you're late every day. You need to set your alarm 30 minutes earlier, and then all these things can happen to you and you'll still be on time. So, for me, it's about putting the responsibility back on them and saying, you can continue on this path, but whining isn't going to change your outcome, action will. So for me, it's just about making sure that they think and that they make better decisions on every level of their life. Who's in their circle, how they're managing their time, what they're doing when they're not in school or working, and are they working towards their goals? Is everything that you're doing taking you one step closer to your dreams? And if it's not, then you're not doing it right.
Yeah.
Bam. Drops mic. No,
Drop
I'm just
that.
kidding.
Can I pick it up? Hold on. Let me get it. Just, baby, you should have tapped me in. She should have tagged me in, then I could come over the rope and then I could finish up with everything like this is a WWE match. But coming from Lauren's office onto the classroom to the clinic floor, it's also double down here too. We were watching I forget exactly which video it was, but it was Robert Cromeans, and he says, in this industry, either you'll be remembered or you'll be forgotten. Right. And for years and years and years, that one statement still resonates with me every day when I come into the classroom. And I think from an educator standpoint, we need to give our students something they will always remember. And that's a great relationship. That's believing in them when they don't believe in themselves. That's showing them that, it's literally about three things. You show up, you work hard, and you listen. And as someone who does coaching and as someone who coaches other educators as well, if you give me those three things, you can be successful in whatever you want to do. But, like you were saying before, you can give some students an ultimate roadmap, and you can say, hey, check this out. This is what we're going to do. I need you to do A, B, C, and D, right? A and B, they're like, oh yeah, this is so amazing. Yeah, this is a great opportunity. By the time they get to C, they're like, well, I don't really know if this is for me. That work ethic somehow drains them when it comes down to like really pushing the envelope. But I think it comes down to just really kind of showing up, working hard, and listening. And as an educator, we really have to do a good job of communicating with our students. And sometimes the things that we need to say aren't necessarily the things that our students want to hear. But we've all been a child before, there's things that our parents have told us that we never believed in our entire lives. And luckily, over the years, I've had students come back to me and say, hey, Mr. Samuels, you know what? I really appreciate that time when you kind of jack me up a little bit, because now I'm such a successful, and I'm talking about people who aren't even in the industry. They went on to do other things. But just by having that coaching, and that's somebody who, gave some not so nice lessons sometimes, you know what I mean? Those are the things that really kind of stick out to students. And I think that from an educator standpoint, we have to continuously motivate and inspire these students. Sometimes I hear stories from students and things they got going on at home, and I'm just in belief, because I'm like, man, I didn't grow up like that. My parents wouldn't allow certain things to happen or go on. You know what I mean? So for me, it's like, I wasn't privy to how some of our students grow up. So it makes me even more intrigued, and I study more, and I study relationships and communication with millennials and communication with xylenials, because I feel a personal responsibility as a leader in our industry to create more leaders. So if I can't communicate with them on that level, and sometimes you have to dumb it down to a TikTok video, feel what I'm saying, to get to your students. You know, we have a slogan here. It's every student, every day, whatever it takes. And being 43 years young, I thought I was still cool. Like, my kids think that I'm the least cool person on the face of this planet.
I'm like, they do think that. They do think
they don't think that I'm cool at all. But, you know, I'm shaping heads and shaping lives every day. They don't think that's cool, but again, every student, every day, whatever it takes. And if, as school leaders and as instructors, if we take that mindset of every student, every day, whatever it takes, hold our students accountable, don't make excuses for them, push them in the right direction, help them to navigate through some of the things that we've already been through, our whole entire industry will see a big shift. And I think we'll have a lot more longevity without a lot of the stress and panic that a lot of people still see in our industry today.
Yeah, no, that's so good. Have you seen a loss of interest from your students since COVID hit, of wanting to even go into the workplace? Have you seen more drop and kind of lose motivation?
Honestly, I can speak to this because I've done 4 drops this week.
Right.
Part of it, I think the students that I saw drop are students I wasn't surprised dropped, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
COVID or not, you know, I think that COVID right now is definitely affecting people's mental state.
Sure.
I'm one of them. This has been one of the toughest, most depressing. I don't cry. I don't show emotion. I am, you know, like this. But I will say that within the last couple months, I have broken down more than normal. I have had struggled to get myself where I need to be. But Tina, I'm still doing it. I'm still showing up every day. I'm still doing what I need to do. So yes, we're seeing this from students. I think that, again, the students that have dropped out are students that weren't fully committed. No, I wasn't surprised. They, weren't necessarily fully committed. And then COVID was just another reason to be able to drop out without taking a lot of responsibility for it. So I have seen some of that. Now, I will say some of our students' lives have been turned upside down from COVID. And there was a small handful that dropped because life it was impossible to manage, but that was not the majority. And those ones did shock me a little, but I think that the ones that understand what it takes to be successful are going to continue to push through and power on and do whatever they need to do to get there. But as school owners or school directors, we have really tried to make it our priority to make sure that they know that we're doing everything in our power to keep them going and to keep things as normal as possible. And I think being around people that have been in the industry a long time helps, because, you're like, oh yeah, I mean, we've seen things, the bottom fall out before. We've made it through recessions. Now this is not the same, but we've seen adversity and we've overcome it. And we know that things will eventually go back to normal. We know that, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and
it's not a train.
It's not a train. The train already ran us over. Right. We're now under the train and we're going to keep moving forward. So I think that it's been a tough year on everyone, and it doesn't affect everyone the same. I mean, just watching our own kids go through it at home, spotting the depression, it's not presenting like a typical depression. It's not presenting like a normal depression would. So it's almost hard to spot what's going on. And so we have seen it in our students in the way that maybe they react to us or to each other, or to something that happens in the day, like fuses are a little shorter. People are more frustrated. There's a lot of like finger pointing, and you're doing this and I don't like this, and I saw you on social media out whatever, and I haven't left my house. And so it's hard when you get a group of people in a building and you're trying to keep it like this, right? But I haven't seen it any more in students than I have in anybody else. And I think we're all in this together, and a little compassion goes a long way. And I know that, you know, for us, our students are our customers, they're our clients, they're the ones we're looking out for. So at the end of the day, like whatever we need to do, whether it's sit on the phone at midnight and listen to them cry because they just don't know what to do, or, you know, bring them into the office and go, okay, here's the problem. Let's go over like the different scenarios that we could do to fix this, or working on it as a group instead of just going, well, what are you going to do? You know, and I think they need that. They need to know that someone cares, and they need to know that someone's feeling it too, because everyone feels so alone right now.
Right.
I mean, even when you're going to school and you're with people, what your situation is may be different than somebody else's. So you just feel so alone. And for us, and for me, I know personally, it hurts my heart because I know what I'm going through, and they're a lot younger. You know, I'm older. I've been through so many things. I know that eventually it's sad. I'll come out on the other side and everything will be okay. But like, if this is your first real, like, what am I going to do? And this is horrible, you know, it's hard to see the other side of it. So emotionally for me, that's taking a toll on me too, is just trying to make sure that these people are okay and that we can do everything in our power to make them comfortable. And I'm sure you guys are going through a lot of that too, is, you know, you're never going to be perfect. You're never going to do what everyone wants you to do. And, you know, as owners and directors, we just do the best that we can in the moment. You know, we're getting very little guidance from state board or whatever, you know, you're kind of just on your own to figure that out.
Rolling the dice every day, sweetie.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, I think just the general depression, I think is just, you know, you have to spot it, and you have to be, and we've had that conversation even with our kids at home, you know, and I had to go to them and say, okay, here's the thing. Our daughter is not doing well. And even though she's, you know, coming down and hanging out with us and not laying in her bed crying all day, we got to look at everything as a big picture and realize like, ooh, this isn't good. What are we going to do to fix that? So
we bought a COVID cat. And with this COVID cat came a whole nother slew of bills, Tina and Sean, that I really wasn't privy to. I didn't understand that adding a cat to your family was the equivalent to 4 other adults. But shout out to Amazon and all the people who have been graciously visiting our house, bringing us a bunch of cat supplies.
So maybe that's what we need to do in the schools. We need to get like a school
support
cat,
animals,
a school cat, and then everyone will want to come to school.
My team would want dogs, is what they would want. They love their dogs.
Right, but then you'd make the cat people mad. As I said earlier, we can't keep everyone happy. It's going to be one or the other.
You know, kind of the quarterback off of what Lauren was saying. I think that as a school and our school culture, we kind of had to shift the dynamics a little bit, where, you know, it's about, you know, mental toughness, and it's about legendary customer service. It's about every cut, every client, no excuses, no exceptions. We've kind of had to bend that a little bit to where we still don't allow our students to make excuses for bad behavior or for being late. But I think that we have kind of shifted that to kind of figure out, well, maybe the student is going through a little something
where's
different.
the bad behavior coming from?
Right.
Because it's uncharacteristic, you know, and it's about spotting those things
before
everyone just now hates that student because they showed up acting like an a-hole one day, you know, and you're like, well, there's clearly more to this than just this like one incident.
Well, it also kind of broadens my perspective, because now not only am I looking for why the student's struggling in the classroom academically, or why the student's struggling from a practical standpoint, but also now what are some of the struggles that a student may be going through mentally or emotionally. I've really kind of had to dig deep and really kind of pull that empathy card out a lot more for my students. Not that I've never won, because of course, you know, my students know I love them, even though I'm a little tough and I may have to have some of those, you know, come to Jesus meetings sometimes. But at the end of the day, a student doesn't care how much you know until they know how much you care, right? And I think for my wife and I, because we're a unit in ourselves, they see the way that we operate. We never could. We make the biggest effort to show our students the resilience that we have as seasoned professionals, in hopes that we're leading by example, that they're like, man, you know, they don't ever sleep. They still have a family, and they still have all these other things going on, but yet still they're still able to reach these goals and these benchmarks for their careers, and they're literally pouring out 150% every day to us, you know. So my prayers moving forward, for a lot of our students and your students too, is that, you know, I'm sorry. I just really want them to understand that, to be the best, you must stand the test. For hard work, and only hard work pays off. And I think that, you know, like I said earlier, they see the magazines and the photographs, and they see all these other things, but also on the flip side of that, there's a body, there's people, there's I think that to be a great hairdresser or a barber, you have to have a certain level of selflessness, which we hadn't seen a lot of in our world today. But I think that as leaders, if we can continue to condition our students to see these things and have that resilience and that selflessness that we share, and how those building blocks pushed us to the next level in our career, then hopefully they'll see the little small things, and take those into consideration and start to execute some of those things themselves.
Yeah, I love it that you're not just talking about training technical, but you're also training, as you said, soft skills. We like to call them essential skills. And so, but having that commonality, but we've also taken that structure into our salon world. So let's talk about bridging the gap between school and salon a little bit more here, because I've seen, you know, as Sean and I coach salon owners, they're really frustrated. I think they're frustrated with their local cosmetology schools. I think they're frustrated with the product, the graduates that are coming out. And I think more so for me, I've had to just, you know, put the finger at myself and say, what can I do differently? So I'm also taking the things that we're teaching in school, but expanding that into the salons. We don't just teach technical. I mean, we're doing the book right now by Amy Morin. It's called 13 Things Mentally Strong People Don't Do. And so we're going through that. It's one chapter every single month in our salon with our salon teams, right? We have 3 salons now. And so I think, you know, continuing that type of training is so important, especially even, like you said, even more so now, resiliency, it needs to be taught, right? And I think, you know, I believe things are better caught than taught, because we need to lead by example, as you mentioned, but it still needs to be discussed and talked about. They need to know that you care. So talk about that. Like, how has the industry changed? How have you seen it shift? And what kind of things differently do you think salons need to do to better train and get their people ready?
You know, honestly, I think when I got into the industry, we were taught that the client is number one. You check your personal issues at the door. You don't let them see you sweat. You're there to serve. You know, you anticipate their needs, and you make sure that you give them, you over or under promise and over deliver every single time, which takes, you know, a lot of practice and being able to anticipate someone's needs and make sure that you're giving them what they want. Now, you know, I was not allowed to call off. I was, you know, well, how sick are you? I remember I would call off and my boss would call me all day. Like, are you still sick though? I mean, yeah, I'm in bed, I'm dying, right? Like, so at 3 o'clock, are you going to be this sick? Do you think that you might be able to come in later? And so calling off for me was always worse than just going in and fighting through whatever I could. Now, obviously, pandemic situation's a little bit different, but you fast forward to now and it's like, oh, I'm calling off because I have a headache or I have cramps or I have, you know, things that are like definitely things you can work through that you just don't really try that hard and you just call off. So for me, you know, us owning that salon, that was a big thing that we saw, is just the inability to fight through whatever it is to get through your day. And I'm in all these problem solving and just, I don't know, take a Midol and show up, like just try, do what you can. And I'm in all these chat groups online, and the general consensus seems to be across the board in our industry is any client that has any sort of expectation from you is wrong, and they should be fired. And oh my God, can you believe they expected me to like show up on time? How dare they?
Get rid of them, girl. You don't need them.
Yeah, I mean, just this like, oh, well, you fire them, they're disrespectful. I mean, just the things I see, I'm like, what is happening?
Right.
And the start of the pandemic, I wrote an article from was it Modern Salon. And I have this great relationship with one of the editors there, where I've been very afflicted with insomnia this year. And so very often at 3 a.m. I get up and all of my emotions are starting to like bubble over. And so I sit down on my computer and angry type this like article or whatever it is, and I send it to her, and she says, whenever I get an email from you at 4 a.m, I know it's about to be fire. So let me see what's going on. But the article basically was all the salons were shut down, and these clients were reaching out to their stylists to see if they could get color to do their own touch-ups at home. And these stylists were, I mean, just the reaction of these people, like their clients were like the devil reincarnated for even asking such a thing. But you know, my article was basically like, we've trained our clients to associate having their hair done with feeling good and being more confident and fixing their problems. And think about how scary everything was back in March when we all got shut down. Everyone's natural reaction was like, give me something to make me feel better. Mm-hmm. And they're reaching out to you because you're their trusted person. You're the one that takes care of them. You're the one that fixes their problems. You're the one that is their friend. And to be met with that sort of attitude, I mean, it goes with like being able to step back and spot depression when it's coming out a different way, right? Like, I think we need to step back and say, you know, it's okay to say no. It's not okay to blast this person on social media for asking what you've always trained them to want, right? And so it's this whole me first instead of them first that I'm seeing in the industry. And honestly, like for us, it is a struggle, because how do you teach people if you're going into the service industry, like it can't be you first on your work days. Like it's got to be them first on your, you know, on your days that you're working. So, you know, we have a culture within the school that our students speak to everyone that walks in the door, you know, and you ask them if they need anything, whether they're your client or someone else's client or the mailman or the UPS driver, you know, and so we're training them that it's not about you. You know, we see these students will get halfway through a highlight and go, I'm hungry. Can I take lunch now?
Complete meltdown. And I'm thinking to myself, like, you know what hurts worse? Not having a pocketbook full of money. So you just want to stop right in the middle? You think hunger hurts?
But it's not about you. It's not about you.
Right.
So, you know, and that's the thing that we have to kind of teach them. And we lead by example. Like, I don't eat while I'm at work all day because the days are so busy that that can't be my priority over everything else that's happening right now. So
you got to tell the story about the young lady who worked for us that didn't think that we ate.
So behind the chair, I was booked, you know, for 6 months straight. So there's no wiggle room. I ran a very tight schedule. So my clients were on time. And if they weren't on time, they didn't get a blowout or a something. Like, I maintained the schedule because I had to. But it's what got me so busy. My clients knew they could come on their lunch break. Their haircut would start at 12. It would end at 12:30, 12:45, and they would be on their way and they didn't have to worry. So we hired a new stylist. She worked for us for weeks. She comes over one day and she goes, can I ask you something? And I said, yeah, what's up? I noticed that you guys don't eat. Is it okay for me to eat?
She went weeks starving, not having any lunch or anything. And I felt, at first I was like, no, you can't eat. But then I was like, oh my gosh, she doesn't work.
Well, my answer is always,
right.
Well, if you have that much time, then go ahead and eat yourself some lunch if that's the kind of time you work with. But, and we just do it because that's how we work. We don't expect everyone to work that way, but we do expect you, if you're in the middle of a highlight, not to walk away to eat a peanut butter and jelly. So, so we do lead by example in that way, that it right in the bathroom while you. Yeah, that's the training. Can you sit and eat in a sandwich and smoke a cigarette at the same time? If it was the 90s, that's what you'd be doing.
Name of the game, multitasking.
Multitask, yes.
You know, and to kind of go to Lauren's point, I think that from a school perspective, we got to go back old school grassroots. You know, some of those things that Tina, your dad, and my dad, and Sean's parents taught in him when we were very young. You got to respect authority, and you got to be mindful of people. You got to care about people. You know, I think that over the years in education, especially in our industry, we've made certain concessions for students because, of course, you know, for a lot of school owners, the big thing is money. I need to make money. So I don't care who you are, or what you look like, or what your your problems are, or whatever. Come on to my school. Let me get you together and let's make it happen. I think the days of a lot of school directors and owners and instructors really kind of caring about the product that's being put out into the world, I think this kind of shifted. And I get it, you know, sometimes, you know, a lot of instructors are a little bit older and they've raised families and have kids, so they're a little bit burnt out. It could be, you know, the instructors that may not have been equipped with the proper education on how to deal with different personalities and different people of
well,
different
and I think
backgrounds.
it's hard too, because I mean, I think sometimes we look at it like, oh, we would have never done things like this, and how dare you, and you know, and so we have to kind of figure out a way to like get to them, right? To let them be able to hear what you're saying and absorb it. So, you know, and I'll tell them, this is an industry where you can do whatever you want, but it's how you do it that determines how much money you'll make, right? So will you be like the food stamps hairdresser for the rest of your life and barber, or are you going to be the one that, you know, buys a house and goes on vacation? Because you can give your clients your butt to kiss, but then you're going to be this guy, you're going to be way down here instead of being way up here.
But also as salon professionals, you know, we have to do a better job of well, I think it's a certain level of customer service that goes into really being successful. And fortunately, our students are blessed because I come from a very strict Southern Baptist Black household where grandmama and mama would slap fire out of you if you was disrespectful, if you didn't answer somebody yes ma'am or no sir. If my grandma ever did her hand like this, it wasn't to slap you, it was to pray on you, right? So you had to fear God and also the fear of your grandma maybe calling your mom and your dad and telling on you because they used to snitch about your behavior. But I also think that the way that I was brought up, it's very, very mirrored in the way that now our students deal with people, like Lauren was saying. I don't know if you guys ever been familiar with Moser Southwest Grill. You walk into the building and everybody's like, welcome to Moser. When we have a client or a guest come in, when they come in or they leave, it erupts. It's the coolest. And I know it scares the crap out of our clients, but they were like, why is everybody yelling my name? Or why does everybody know my name? And I've been offered water 17 different times from 5 different people, you know. But I think that by them seeing how we do that and how we get along with just guests that we don't even know, we treat them like their family. We had a birthday party one time for a young lady. I didn't even know it was her birthday. We went and got balloons, we just made it a whole day.
But as a salon owner, you understand that, right? Because then they like the salon, they like the shop, so that if that one service provider doesn't give them the experience that they see in the rest of the building, they will keep coming back and maybe see someone else. So I think that's a way, we want to make sure that these clients keep coming back into our space, so that if maybe they didn't have somebody that was the right fit the first time, maybe the next time they will, but they're not going to give up on your business, which allows the students to see in real time how their actions affect. Because if the client never comes back, they never know why, right? They never know it was them, or but if that client comes back and sees someone else and continues to see someone else, they can then put it together that whatever it was that they did in that appointment, it didn't match up with the guest's expectations. And so it's time to fix that.
Well, we also have been doing briefings with our students. We will take account of every client that we've had over a month and who they saw. And then we'll go over it with the students, say, you know what, well, so-and-so, Susie Q's been here 7 different times, but Susie Q's only seen you once. But Susie Q has also jumped around to a couple of other students, but she's willing to give that opportunity to somebody else. So we need to figure out, number one, why Susie Q didn't come back, so that Well, so that you now can have the knowledge, because like Lauren says about curly hair clients all the time, right? If you give a bad curly haircut, the people just don't come back.
Well, they expect it to be bad. So they're not going to tell you that it was bad. They already knew it was going to be bad, and they're not going to tell you, you know, call back, and they'll never return. So you walk away thinking like, oh, I did a great job. No one complained. I didn't have any redos.
But I also think it's the same thing in the school business too, when you service and guests, because if you have a guest that comes in and they just never come back, you don't do the follow-up or the research to figure out what could have been different in that experience. We're doing our students a disservice. So from the school area, we got to do a better job of policing and monitoring what our students do, what the retention rates are they selling product? You know, there's what is it, 80 or 90% of clients who buy products from students, is it 80? They come back, right? But having those hard numbers in front of the students, getting them to understand and realize why this is so important, but also coupling that back with the soft skills, the essentials, the legendary customer service from the schools to now the salon. I think that's how we continue to create this great synergy so that we can have a better industry all over the world.
All over the world. I love it. So I'm going to ask one more question and then Sean can take it home from there. But thank you so much for both of you being on. You guys are amazing. I could go for hours with you on this. And I know the salon owners on this feel the same way too. So you said 3 things that you teach, and I love what you said. You dropped some bombs here. Commitment, teaching, and I think this all needs to be taught in the salons too, right? It needs to be constantly going. So commitment, drive, right? And then you said ethics. Let's talk about that for a moment, because I know this industry has been notorious for being unethical or not following Department of Labor laws, so to speak, right? So let's talk about that. How do you train that in your schools? And then also, how do you, what advice would you give salons right now? Sean and I have a 6-month course that we teach. In the very first month, we only train W-2 employees, salon owners. So we don't train salon owners that have booth renters or independent contractors. It's not that we don't believe in them. It's just that we know that a strong culture and a strong system can only be set up underneath the premise of following Department of Labor laws, of having, you know, employees in them. So that's one of the reasons.
So this is a really tricky subject because as a business owner, I have always done everything above board. I don't do 1099. I never have, never would. A, because I know it's wrong, and then because I know it's illegal, and B, because I don't want to have to pay back taxes for, you know, any of that. But
there's a man named Uncle Sam, and we're not many of us have met him. We get letters from him every so often and things like that, but you don't want to ever have that kind of real good relationship with Uncle Sam.
I think for so long, this industry, and especially the barber industry, has been taught to be cash, cash, cash. Hide your cash, don't claim it, do whatever. I've always taught that you can do that if you want to, but then be prepared to never be able to buy a house or a car or get a credit card or take care of yourself as a real adult human being. I think this pandemic, if nothing else, has been the great equalizer and has shown everybody what they were doing wrong. And while these stylists think they're getting away with something, it all caught up to them real quick. So
Mom used to say, what don't come out in the wash will come out in the rinse.
Yeah. So I think that this has been a big eye opener when, you know, and everyone's complaining, oh, the state is screwed up. No. Nah, you're screwed up, and what you were doing is screwed up, and it's going to continue to be screwed up. So I think that I think 1099 could be a thing if you as the stylist worked at 3 different shops and you picked what days you were going there and you took care of your own thing, but very, very rarely is that even happening. So we teach our students not just what to do, but why. And this year has been a great why, if nothing else. But I think we scare them into it. Honestly, like 100%. I had a client when I worked downtown, and she worked for the state of Michigan, and her job, sole job. So when the new attorney general came in, she put together a task force whose only job it is to sit in a room all day and comb over all the Michigan corporate taxes to see who had W-2 employees versus 1099 employees. And they are going after those 1099 employees. So I know of 4 salons that she was involved on their case, and they had to pay back all those taxes.
Wow.
So let that sink in. If you're, just running your normal business, that is enough to take you down. I mean, having to pay that back is enough to end whatever it is you think you have going on from a business owner standpoint. It seems like you're getting away with something because you're not having to pay those employee taxes, but it's a drop in the bucket when you think of what you pay in lawyer bills, what you would pay in back taxes, what you pay in interest and penalties and all of that. It's not worth it. And we watch people, and this is a little separate, but you watch people go through life and I have all this trauma and it's all this stuff and I have all this going on and woe is me and poor me, and it's decision making. It boils down to you can't play stupid when it comes to government and taxes and laws. That's not a reason that they go, oh, it's okay then, you didn't know. No, if you are taking on the responsibility of opening a business, if you're taking on the responsibility of becoming a 1099 contractor, then it's up to you to make sure that everything is done the right way so that you don't have any drama later on. So we are huge on that.
Yeah.
And me being a single person buying a house was one of my big lessons. I couldn't have done that if I was a 1099 employer, if I was pocketing all my cash and all of that. Life is a lot harder when you spend your entire existence trying to cheat the system, whether it's unemployment or taxes or anything. I always ask myself when I'm making decisions, like, okay, so is the outcome of this, regardless of what it is, something that I could handle, right? Good, bad, or otherwise. Is it something that I could handle? And if the answer is no, then I don't do it, because you have to look at the worst case scenario and assume that it could happen to you. And are you doing things the right way? Are you acting with integrity? And if you go through your entire life acting with integrity and doing what's right, then you have nothing to worry about. You get audited. I've been audited. I wasn't doing anything wrong. I wasn't worried. But there's other people out there that would start freaking out. Oh my God, my life is so dramatic. Yes, it is very dramatic because you made it that way. It's by design. So I'm glad that you guys are teaching that. I think that, have you seen kind of like the conversation switch since the pandemic? Have you seen that, like, in business owners going like, ooh, I better get it together? This was kind of like a big shining light on everything that I'm doing wrong.
For sure. And I still think there's still some miseducation out there. I still think there's people saying, well, my CPA says I can do it. And like, your CPA does not work for the Department of Labor. What are you talking about?
I think a lot of times when people, especially in our industry, when people mention CPA, they really mean tax preparer. Exactly. Because my CPA and every other CPA that I've actually ever had, whether it be in South Carolina or here in Michigan, they would never do that.
Well, and the first thing their CPA should be asking them is, do you have a front desk person that books the appointments? If the answer is yes, you will lose your court case.
Bingo.
Just on that question alone. If you're a 1099 employee that has a front desk person that books their appointments, that right there, you've lost your case.
You tell them, Queen.
Me, but we've always done it that way. And I've had salon owners say, well, Tina, I'll be out of business if I don't do it this way, because everybody else is. They're all paying high commissions. And the only way for me to compete with that commission.
I mean, that is true. I do see that these stylists are very entitled. It's a big, and I want 70%. Excuse me, but we carry all the burden. We got to make sure there's enough in savings to keep a roof over everyone's head, and all
nobody
of that
thinks
stuff.
I don't think that stylists or especially barbers think about when you walk into the shop and you click that light switch, the light's on, or the doors aren't chained, and you got abundance of product and pomades and shampoos. Well, and
they can't go on and do their own salon suite, but that means their days off are running errands to make sure your suite is stocked and making sure that your bills are paid, and your 4-day work week turns into then a 6-day work week. So that's what you're paying for. And there's a lot that comes with being able to like finish your last client, sweep your hair, and go home. That's kind of a luxury at this point. But Says the woman who's been working like 90 hours a week for the last 5 years. I'm like, must be nice to get that commission and go home. Like,
put your feet up watching reruns of Friends.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that there's a miscommunication in like, oh, well, I could go off on my own and make more money. Yeah, but you'd have less time. So you got to pick what you want, you know?
And I'm so glad you said it. I think at the end of the day, it's not about who's right. It's about what's right, you know? And one of the daily lessons that we give our students is that you have to treat time like a currency, right? Yeah. How are you, Lauren said it earlier, how are you spending your time? How are you spending your time? What are you doing, to better yourself? That's going to make your life a lot easier. That's going to help to alleviate some of the pressures of the world. But I also don't think that a lot of our students spend their time wisely, and I'm guilty of this sometimes too. Sometimes I'll go online and I'll go into a rabbit hole on Instagram or TikTok or something like that. And next thing I know, it's 2 or 3 hours, that I've gone. But at the same time, we're doing the best job that we possibly can to, number one, ensure them that if you take the necessary steps, we're not in the business of telling them anything wrong, and the cool thing about, I think, Lauren and myself is that if we don't know, we'll just say, you know what? I don't know. Because I'm an instructor, that doesn't mean I have to know every single thing. Because I'm a business owner, I have to know every single thing. But I think that's why what you and Sean are doing is just as important, because now you guys have a different perspective from people who are directing schools and directing students, because you do that yourself, but also different perspectives from other people that are doing the same thing in the same demographic, but have different experiences. So we all can learn from each other and share those stories, so that we all can have a better industry, not just here in Michigan, but again, like I said earlier, the world.
Well, and I make sure, to convey to our students that no matter where you're at and what your commission is and what you're doing, salon and barbershop overhead is so high. Mm-hmm. No owners are out there getting rich on your back.
Right.
Not happening. So the salon owner, even if they're running it with all the right ratios and all the right things, you're looking at 10% profit margin. 10% profit margin. That is not a huge profit margin. Now forget about it if you're paying 50 and 60% commissions. If you're a salon owner paying 50 and 60% commissions, there will be no profit. So, I think that needs to be taught in a way that no one's trying to get rich on your work, but as the salon owner who carries all the risk all the time and all the responsibility and all of that, to be able to pay yourself like this much is well earned. So, I think that that's important too, for them to see all sides of it.
I think one of the good lessons that we're teaching our students, and as of lately, everybody's hands are really, really heavy with product, right? So we give them amazing product to use to work on their clients, to sell for take home, but they go
it's almost spiteful, like,
right?
Like you're like, could you please not use that much? And they're like, you mean this much? Okay. This much? Is this too much? And you're like,
I had to ask one of the students one day if I did something to them, because they were just rigorously pumping that Alpui shampoo all through their hands and the head, and the client had my level of hair, right? So sometimes in our morning huddle, we talk about product usage and what's the right amount. And of course, Lauren backs that up and said, hey, listen, if you guys are even remotely thinking of owning your own barbershop or salon, what you guys are doing to our back bar, it's unacceptable. You will literally hemorrhage money each month by it's something that students don't even take for granted, right? They think that their tuition.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That's funny.
Oh, you silly little kid. You think that your tuition covers all of this? Your instructors, the insurance that we have to keep on you with your clumsy self sometimes? So let's be real, but again, this is why I think that what we're doing here at Hair Lab is a little bit different from what everybody else does, because we're not only shaping heads, but we're really shaping lives.
So good. You guys are amazing.
I love that. So how can people find you? Call out your social media. How can they find you?
And of course she looks at me, but
So he helps me with my social media. So yeah, he knows my social. I am on there. It's
Yeah.
not all him, but he
Right.
will assist me in some of navigating some of the social media.
So
I said it like I'm 90. Like
right.
some of that that social media that's out there.
And ever so often she pulls out her abacus, you know, and does our taxes. But you can find us at Hair Lab Detroit Barber School. That's on Instagram, that's on TikTok, that's on Twitter, that's on Facebook, that's on Google. That's on YouTube and also Vimeo. You can find us individually at Rodrick Samuels, that's RODRICK SAMUELS on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, and any other place you could imagine. Of course, Lauren has the same kind of presence because we have to be matchy-matchy. I don't want her to get mad at me because
mine's a little different though, because I know my Instagram is Lauren M. Moser, Moser, but then my Facebook is Lauren Samuels.
she claims she keeps my last name ever so often. So if you find it with it, that's cool. And if you find it without it, doesn't mean anything. I still got my ring on. So
listen, as women, it's really hard, right? It's hard to you've done all this as one person and then you're a different. It's hard. So I'm easing my way in is what's happening.
It's a slow process, but
I got one foot in, guys. I got one foot in. In case I need to pull it back out, it'll be easier. I'll only have to switch one.
Well, the good thing is there's not a lot of barber instructors in the state of Michigan, so I'll have a job.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Yeah, we're looking for one. So anytime you're ready.
Listen, Tina, we had to fly. We had to move someone here from California that we're going to try. The struggle is real. That's a different conversation for another day.
But we will be having training courses coming up soon, so we'll let you know.
Thank you, Rodrick. Yes, we need that desperately. We need you. So any famous last words that you guys want to give before we go today?
You know, honestly, my famous last words for right now is let's hope 2021 is better than 2020. But in the off chance that the first half isn't, let's just remember to keep our focus where it needs to be and do what's right. Always act with integrity and then you'll be okay. Just treat people with respect, act with integrity, do the right thing, and you have nothing to worry about. Your life will be just fine.
People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Sometimes it's so important to show people a little bit of empathy, and I think that'll take you a long way.
That's right.
Get a cat.
Thanks everyone for joining us too. All right.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.